NBC10 breaking news.
That breaking news, the city under curfew tonight. All of Philadelphia was ordered to stay indoors until 6 a.m. An order police aren't taking lightly as protesters were handcuffed in West Philadelphia. Backup arriving just a few hours ago. Dozens of Pennsylvania State Police and armored vehicles are in Philly right now to enforce that curfew.
But you know what? That didn't stop another night of looting. This time across the county line, Skyforce 10 capturing these looters smashing their way right into a department store in Ballackinwood. You're watching NBC 10 News at 11. I'm Jim Rosenfield.
And I'm Jacqueline London. This is the third night of unrest following the shooting death of Walter Wallace by Philadelphia police officers. Our team is bringing you the latest in this ongoing situation, from the police response to protesters to Wallace's grieving family and the officers injured during the unrest. We begin with the continued ransacking of business. This one that you're looking at right now. NBC 10's Aaron Baskerville is outside the Lord & Taylor in Ballackinwood. Aaron, this was hit just within the hour.
City Avenue, Jim and Jackie, has been swarming with officers for the last 45 minutes. You can see here, Haverford Township is here, state police have been here, Philadelphia police, also Lower Merion police. Walk with me up here to the door. You can see the Lord & Taylor right here. The front window is smashed in. For the last 40 minutes, an officer has been standing here just waiting and seeing if somebody is going to walk out of this, the looters that were in there. Just about 5 minutes ago, an officer walked in there with a security guard here at this department store to check the cameras to see what they can find out. A dog was inside here sniffing around to see if anybody is in there hiding out. We've heard of that happening over the last 2 days. Looters go inside a store and they kind of hide out and wait until the officers leave. Tonight we talked to a whole bunch of businesses, some that were hit last night. They're still trying to figure out their next move.
How many times can a business rebuild in the same community that's tearing themselves apart? It's heartbreaking.
For the second time in 5 months, the owners of City Blue are forced to rebuild. On Monday night, their clothing store on 52nd Street in West Philly was destroyed by looters. Photos show the aftermath and what it will now take to get back on their feet.
If we don't have the businesses, we don't have the community. If there's no business, the community is going to die, and the people who live in the community, they're going to suffer for years to come.
Neighborhoods throughout the city boarded up ahead of the citywide curfew tonight. Store owners in Port Richmond tell NBC 10 there's real concern looters will come back a second night. Walter Wallace's father says last night's behavior is not honoring his son.
I'm against this looting and tearing up the city, you know what I mean? Come together instead of divide, you know what I mean? And, you know, we tearing up our own community and our resource, and we ain't got nothing back to go to.
Police say they are seeing a concentration on big box stores in areas where looters can gather quickly. They say there is more of a spontaneous pop-up looting element now, different from what they saw in May and June. Philadelphia is now using roving teams of officers specializing in responding to looting calls. The curfew is one more tool, according to the commissioner.
But at some point, we have to make sure that we are not only continuously evaluating the effectiveness of the curfews, but evaluating to determine if we're reaching the point of diminishing returns.
So right now I can tell you at least 4 different police departments are working together. For those who do not know, City Avenue is the street that runs from West Philadelphia to Lower Merion Township. It's on the border. We also just heard reports about a half hour ago of some folks trying to break into the Target about a half a block down this way. But you can see the damage left behind from some looters. Right now they continue to check that security footage to see if anybody's still inside, if they can get a face on anybody that ran out of here. Philadelphia police say last night 1,000 looters stretched their resources thin. They had 297 reported incidents just last night. For now, we're live in Lower Merion Township. Aaron Baskerville, NBC 10 News.
All right, Aaron, thank you. And just into our NBC 10 newsroom, Skyforce 10 video of police arresting a looting suspect in West Philly. Police believe that suspect broke into that Lord & Taylor store where Aaron just was live on City Avenue. Police caught up with him at 54th Street and Pennsgrove Avenue in West Philly. They are now looking for 2 other suspects.
And you just heard Walter Wallace's grieving family a few minutes ago saying they do not condone looting. Well, now his parents are facing how and when to bury their son during a pandemic. They sat down to share their pain and give us insight into what happened moments before that deadly shooting. NBC 10's Drew Smith is live in our Montgomery County Bureau with their story. Drew.
Good evening. The family is still working on funeral plans while they watch the community react to the death of their son, and they also want some answers from the city. Walter Wallace Sr. and Kathy Brandt sat for an interview with KYW News Radio's Cherry Gregg today, grieving the loss of their son.
My son was a good, beautiful person. I wish he could just be right now.
They acknowledge Wallace Jr. was having a mental health episode when he had the knife.
He was getting counseling, he was taking the medicine, he was going to see a psychiatrist.
Kathy says she was the first to call for help Monday, followed by another later call by someone else in the family. She says they wanted an ambulance.
And when they came from the sidewalk, they ran out the street, their minds was already set up to kill them. That's how you feel. And that's the truth.
The family says they wish a superior officer or someone who specializes in mental illness could have responded.
Or even if you couldn't calm him down, tase him or something.
It wasn't.
Don't shoot him.
No.
Down like a dog. That was wrong.
They hope changes are made in the future, but this mom knows the son she saw shot in front of her is not coming back.
It felt like somebody was ripping my soul or something out of me. How could you shoot my son down in front of me? How can you do that to me?
The family attorney says they hope to see the full body camera video that the officers were wearing by the end of the week. Philadelphia's police commissioner said that they would show the family that video first before releasing it to the broader public. If you want to hear more of that interview, it will be broadcast on KYW News Radio's Flashpoint program. I'm Drew Smith, NBC 10 News.
And Philadelphia police are being forced to take a hard look at certain protocols in the wake of the Walter Wallace shooting. Today, Commissioner Outlaw vowed changes, saying she hopes to have a behavioral health specialist for the department. Today, we learned nearly 2/3 of Philly police officers are not armed with non-lethal tasers. That includes the 2 officers who fired the fatal shots at Wallace. According to the department, they are among more than 3,500 officers who have not completed taser training and don't carry them.
Is funding non-lethal force inside the Philadelphia Police Department a priority for you?
I think that funding the police department and whatever other agency that makes us safe is the #1 priority.
A decade ago, then Police Commissioner Charles Ramsey used nearly $2 million in federal grant money to buy tasers and train officers. As the police department considers changes, they're also dealing with the stress and strain of a hostile city.
Nearly 24 Philadelphia officers have been injured since Monday. The commissioner saying agitators are showing up to peaceful protests intent on hurting police. NBC 10's Matt DeLucia is live in Center City at police headquarters tonight. Now, you spoke with a retired officer about dealing with tough situations like this.
Right, when we're talking about the injuries here, the majority of the ones sustained by Philadelphia police have been cuts and bruises. One officer's leg was run over the other night, and it's not just rocks and bottles being thrown. Now the police commissioner says people are throwing blood at officers.
There is intention behind what they're doing.
That intention, Commissioner Outlaw says, is to demean and demoralize the officers. Since Monday, we've seen several instances where police have been the target of attacks during demonstrations and looting.
They're throwing Molotov cocktails. Again, they're bringing bricks in backpacks.
And more.
Several officers also had something that appeared to be blood intentionally thrown on them.
As of late this afternoon, 23 officers have been injured. All were treated and released. Retired South Jersey police officer Corey Jones says it's already a tough job.
They have to deal with a public outcry or protest or riot, looting, or other criminal activity. It really stresses because they're trying to protect themselves and all those other people in society, yet they're being victimized themselves by it.
In this video from last night, an officer is almost run over by a car during a case of looting. You can see him walk over, apparently injured, and fall to his knees. Police Union President John McNesby posted a video message on Twitter directed to the men and women in blue.
We're out here, we're supporting you. We know what you've been through for the last 2 days, 15 to 20-hour days.
LaSalle criminal justice professor Charles Gallagher says it's a challenge at a time when every move is judged.
How do we figure out a way where officers are keeping the peace and at the same time respecting the dignity and the civil rights of people in their communities? It's a very hard line to walk.
And on this third night we're experiencing protesting and looting throughout the city, as you saw there in Aaron's live shot. The police commissioner says that public safety remains the #1 priority. Live at police headquarters tonight, I'm Matt DeLucia, NBC10 News.
All right, Matt, thank you. And the police shooting and subsequent civil unrest, it can take a toll on your mental health. Coming up, NBC10's Drew Smith spoke with a psychologist on how you can keep a clear mind during the chaos. And now to this breaking news live from Skyforce 10. Right now you can see this van right there parked in the middle of the Ben Franklin Parkway. This is at 19th Street. Police say they called for the bomb squad after seeing propane tanks and torches inside that van. It was abandoned when police arrived.